All right. I see we're live. I'm just going to wait for the notification to go out. If you can see us, hear us, leave a comment. Let us know where you're joining us from. I have Dean on the live with me today.
Hey, everyone.
Waiting for notifications to come in.
Yeah, it takes some time usually, right?
Yeah, it does take a lag now. It never used to be this way, but I guess because a lot of people are also going live these days too. So yeah. All right.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay, we have someone from Manchester in the UK. I can't seem to see your name, but thanks for joining us. So I guess we're live on LinkedIn. If you can see us or hear us, please leave a comment. Let us know where you're joining us from. Hi, Ola from Antigua. Oh, it's your first time catching me live. Well, hope you stay with us. Hi. Oh, wow. Hi, Bitinga from Nigeria. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And we're live on Facebook as well and YouTube. Awesome. So, wherever you're joining us from, whenever you catch us, let us know where you're joining us from. And today we have Dean here. We're going to be talking about job search strategies. So, whatever challenge you're having with job search. Hi, Ineha from Calgary. Nice to have you here. Whatever challenges you're having with your job search process, we're going to be answering questions. So drop your questions, as you join us, and then we will definitely try to answer as many questions as possible. A couple of people have already sent questions ahead, so we would also answer those questions as well. Erica from Grenada, thanks for joining us. Chinwe from Lagos. So I'm going to let Dean introduce himself. You haven't seen or heard from Dean on LinkedIn. I don't know what LinkedIn you use, but yeah, I'm going to let Dean introduce himself. I first saw Dean on LinkedIn. I think I sort of caught him on one of his lives or one of his posts. I was just like, he's different. No, that was when we didn't have LinkedIn Live then. That was when you do those your talking head videos with your phone and say
that's right. Yeah.
I still remember, and I'm like, he's different. I mean, he's a recruiter that is giving job search tips and advice. It was very different. I'm like, wow, this is definitely someone to follow. And I've been following Dean, for a while, and he shares amazing tips that help job seekers, regardless of what your career path is. He shares these tips, and he's very consistent with it. And he genuinely cares about people, which is something I find about him. So, enough of blowing his trumpet. I'm going to let Dean introduce himself and tell us a bit about him.
Thank you so much. I know I kind of feel embarrassed the way you introduced me, but I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and hello to all of your viewers out there. I appreciate all of you tuning in. And as Eno mentioned, my name is Dean, and I can't remember how Eno and myself connected, but yeah, I same thing. I think I saw some of your videos, Eno, as well, and we connected somehow. Mm-hmm. And Eno was a guest on one of my shows. So it's a pleasure to be here. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. So again, my name is Dean Kulaweera. So I've been in the recruitment industry for about a total of 8 years. My first 4 years was starting and running my own business, staffing agency business. And then the most recent 4 years has been working for other agencies, ranging from small agencies to large size agencies. And I know that career trajectories kind of should be flipped, right? Like first you're supposed to be working for an agency and then start your own. But anyway, I kind of turned that on the head. But in terms of the recruitment industry, I've primarily been recruiting for the IT space on both technical and non-technical roles. On the technical side, software developers, systems administrators, network administrators, all the technical hands-on people. And then on the non-technical side, the project managers, the business analysts, and for a variety of different industries, again, ranging from startups to large-size companies. And the reason I mention that is because it has provided me with a broad view of different types of organizations, different types of recruitment processes, different types of hiring managers, different types of personalities. So a lot of the tips and advice I put out is based on those experiences, which I'm happy to and hopefully able to share with all of you today as well on as a guest on Eno's show. So again, thanks so much for inviting me, Eno. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dean. Yeah, he doesn't like to blow his trumpet. So yeah, I kind of put him on the spot there. Okay, so let's get to it. So from what I see right now, we have an array of people joining us from Canada, from the US, from UK, from Nigeria, from India, right? So
awesome.
we're all job seekers, right? And before we we got on this call, I was doing some content, right? Because I was creating some content for my course, and it was really about understanding yourself as a job seeker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the title of that post I was creating is "Everyone is a Product," right? So if you see yourself as a product, how would you sell yourself, right? There's some brands in the world today that have been able to just stand out, right? They've been able to create a niche for themselves. They've been able to stand out as higher end. Like when you talk about cars, talk about the Mercedes, you talk about the BMWs, like those kind of cars. When you talk about like gadgets, you talk about like the Samsung and the Apple. So there's brands that have been able to sort of stand out. And if we see ourselves that way, we would definitely think about ourselves as products and be able to sell ourselves as job seekers that are providing value. So let's start from the basics, right? So for anyone who has a question with regards to job search, how do I approach job search? What's your recommended strategy to approaching job search?
Yeah, and I'm so excited about what you said about the product thing, because I've been speaking about this for like since I started posting. And actually I remember I had a previous manager at one of the agencies I worked at who actually sat me down and said, Dean, that's kind of offensive if you say that. Some people might get offended. They'll be like, I'm not a product, I'm a human being. But I mean, and my intention of using this analogy, and just like how you're using it, Eno, is not to offend anyone. But the fact is, all of us, when we're marketing ourselves, whether as a job seeker on the market or even in your day-to-day role, you are a product, and you need to look at yourself as a product, and a product in the sense that you provide a solution, right? And that's the way you need to take your approach as a job seeker. I feel a lot of job seekers, they see themselves as job seekers, which is fine, from your perspective. But from the company's perspective, from an organization's perspective, you are a solution provider. They're looking for someone to provide a solution for a problem that they're looking to solve. So this is a mindset shift a lot of job seekers need to make is, I'm a product. I'm a product. I'm a solution provider. I'm someone who provides solutions. And that'll give you the right context on how you're approaching your search, taking a more proactive approach, and how you're marketing yourself as well. And you need to focus on the fact that you provide solutions versus the fact that you're looking for a job, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay. All right. So we've kind of started with the basics. So understand that you provide solution, right? And approach job search from that aspect. So let's talk about the job search process in itself. What are some key things with your experience in recruiting and hiring and all that, and human resources in general? What are the key things that a professional should have? Whether you're seeking a job right now or not, because the truth is, like COVID happened. Some people never thought that in 2020 they would be out of a job and go back to the job market looking for a new job. So what are some key things that you should have at all times as a professional, regardless of your job situation?
Yeah, great question. So definitely one of the major mistakes I think a lot of job seekers make, and it's a natural mistake all of us make, not just I myself and made, and that is thinking in terms of a job and not thinking in terms of your career. So just because like a lot of people make the mistake of they get their job, they're working, they're fine, everything's good, everything's well, and they step away from LinkedIn, they step away from their network, they don't need to go to the networking events anymore, they forget about their network, and then suddenly something like COVID hits, and next thing you know, you haven't been nurturing your network, you haven't been increasing your presence and your visibility into your industry, and you're basically back at ground zero. So one of the major things all of the job seekers need to think about is think in terms of your career. You need to be developing your brand, developing and being a visible brand and product in your industry. You need to be seen at every major industry event in your space. You need to be an expert in your space. You need to be speaking about your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise. You need to be building your connections, nurturing your existing connections. And that's how you really build a strong network, right? Because this is one of the most important things, and everybody hears it. they say that, referrals mean such a huge thing, or most jobs, they get filled by people that people know, or
Yeah.
that people trust. So that's something a lot of job seekers need to keep in mind, in terms of when they're already employed, because the best time to start preparing for not having a job is when you have a job, right?
Hmm.
And this is the mistake a lot of people make, is they get their job and they're fine and they're happy.
Yeah.
Now the next thing is obviously, again, it comes down to visibility. How visible are you? Like, you need to be a visible person in your space, in your industry, right? Because that's how, people in your industry are going to be aware of you, and know that you're the expert in your space. For example, when I think of business analysis, I think of NO right away,
Yes.
right? Right, but why is that? Why is that though? Because she's always talking about business analysis, she's always posting, and she's really developing her brand, and that's a great position to be in. And
Mm.
I'm sure she probably gets incoming leads from organizations looking to interview her,
Oh my God. Even when
right?
I'm not looking, right? So, on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, you can turn on opportunities, open to opportunities,
yeah,
something like that, right? And really, that's what recruiters are typically supposed to use to find people. And I know you do that as well, because
yes,
you want to make sure you're talking to people who are already open to new opportunities, and ready to listen to you. But apparently, I do not even turn that on, but I still get them saying, "Oh, well, you'd be great. Can I just have a
yeah,
word?
yeah,
Can I just get on the phone with
yeah.
you?" And of course, recruiters, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're salespeople, right? They're trying to close that
Yeah,
lead.
yeah,
But of
yeah.
course, when you see a potential candidate that's a good lead for you, you're trying to really sell you. Trust me, ABC Bank is the best bank for you. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah,
to work where I am kind of happy where I am, but they're trying to
yeah, yeah.
sell you, right? So when you're visible that way, you don't even need to say, I'm open to work. I'm open to opportunities. Opportunities will find you. That's what Dean is saying,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely, absolutely, and again, it's a great problem to have, right? I'm sure, right? And I'm sure a lot of us, like, that's a problem we'd love to have, right? And
Right.
yeah, and now the other mistake, a lot of job seekers make is depending solely on online applications.
Mm.
Now, recently I conducted a survey on my LinkedIn, where I think there was 560 respondents, and 64% said the major issue that they face is they're applying for positions and not getting any responses. So that goes to show you that this is a major hurdle a lot of your viewers, and a lot of those of you tuning in might be experiencing, is how do you get beyond the application stage? And that's where the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is depending on solely on your resume, solely on your online applications, when what you need to be doing is using that as just one channel. You need to be using every channel available to you. Professional networking, sending direct cold emails, cold messaging on LinkedIn, expanding your network on LinkedIn, virtual networking events, right? Virtual because of this whole COVID thing, and building out your connections, and using every avenue available to you, folks. Like, don't depend solely on online applications. That's another mistake. And finally, I just want to say, and hopefully I'm not going on too long, because I get so passionate about this stuff. But the other thing is, at your interviews, make understand that don't think of the interview as an interview. Think of it more as an investigation.
Mm.
And the analogy I like to use is, you're the doctor, the organization is the patient. You're going in there to diagnose what their problem is, what the situation is, what the exact the who, what, when, where, why regarding the project. You're there to analyze and highlight what the key issues, the core pain points are, so that you, at your end, you can highlight the most relevant aspects of your background and speak to that, and show them why you're the best fit for the role. So I mean, there's so many things I could talk about, but off the top of my head, those are probably the key things all of you need to keep in mind during your job search.
Okay, awesome, Dean. So, are you telling me right now that as a job seeker, I should just focus on LinkedIn? I shouldn't really focus on creating a fantastic, really beautiful resume or cover letter. I shouldn't really focus on that. I should just focus 100% on LinkedIn. I don't even need a resume right now. Just show up on LinkedIn, and opportunities will
Right,
come.
right.
Is that what you're saying right
No, 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 absolutely not. So what I'm saying is, and that's a great question. What I'm saying is, use everything, folks. Like, you got to use everything. Use your resume, use your LinkedIn, and like I said, virtual networking, virtual events, professional networking. It's a multi-pronged approach. There is no magic bullet. Everyone asks me, Dean, what's the magic bullet?
now? Oh, I think we lost you there, Dean. I can't seem to hear you anymore.
LinkedIn either. LinkedIn is not going to be the answer to all, hurdle or barrier that you face. So it's not just LinkedIn. I'm not saying focus only on LinkedIn. You want to focus on every approach you can take.
Awesome. So basically, use every available means you have. So use your resume to apply online. Use LinkedIn to build your brand. Use LinkedIn to connect with people. Send out cold emails. Like do everything possible that
Yeah.
you can, basically. All right, awesome. So talking about LinkedIn right now, because when people say they don't have LinkedIn right now, I'm like, in 2020, you don't have a LinkedIn account. I'm serious,
Yeah. Yeah.
because when you Google me, like when I Google myself, the first thing that comes up is my LinkedIn page. So
Yeah.
I'm very conscious about my brand on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn seems to have like a very powerful SEO. So even before my personal website, which is my name, and even my other pages, my LinkedIn profile comes up first. So when people say, "Oh, I really don't know how to use that platform," but you're active on Facebook and Instagram and these places, you go there and post your cat and dog pictures. Well, that's really not helping you with the brand. That's for your friends and your family, right? However, your
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
brand, with how you want to be seen professionally, because like Dean said, start with thinking about your career, not the job. When you think about your career
Mhm.
path, LinkedIn is really a fantastic place to build that brand. So, Dean, tell us, from the eyes of the recruiter and hiring manager, because you're wearing those glasses right now. How do you sort of look through? What do you look out for on a LinkedIn profile when you want to approach a candidate for a role?
Yeah, got it. So now my perspective that I'm going to share, I know, is definitely from a recruiter and from a staffing agency perspective.
Yeah.
So what all of you watching need to understand is, for staff, firstly, keep in mind, this is a very important point. A recruiter's job is to not find you a job, right? Now, some of you might not like to hear that, and this is probably one of the biggest misconceptions about recruiters, that yeah, the recruiter is going to help me find a job. But no, the recruiter's job is not to find you a job. A recruiter's job is to help their clients, the organization, find talent. Big
Mm,
difference there, right? So that's where the job search starts for the recruiter. Is okay, I have a client, I have this organization. They say, hey Dean, we're looking for like a Java developer, or let's say a business analyst, and we need someone with XYZ skill sets. We need to go out there and find someone. So that's how the search starts from the recruiter. Now in terms of what appeals on the LinkedIn profile for IT recruiters, heavily driven by technical skill sets, right? And technologies, frameworks, and those aspects. Those are things that really might capture the IT recruiters, attention. But
mm,
not just that, because because it's based on the requirements, right? Like, because the client might say, we want someone who has experience in retail applications or banking applications, or those other variables as well. So it's dependent entirely on what really the requirements are for the role. But your LinkedIn profile definitely has to be keyword rich. So
mm.
you need to, like, a lot of people make the mistake of having the bare minimum on their profile, and all you have is your name, the title, the dates. Like, you might as well not be on LinkedIn at all, folks. Like you gotta yeah, you gotta put some work to your profile, like each position, because that helps your again, it helps your LinkedIn profile be more keyword rich, because
True.
there's no telling what combination of search strings the recruiter is going to put in.
Yeah.
If you worked with Java technology and .NET, you worked in the retail industry and all this stuff, try and mention those main and primary keywords related to your industry as much as possible, so that it increases the chances of your profile being shown up in the results. Now, the other thing is, of course, recommendations really count a lot, especially if it's from like a manager, or someone who supervised you or managed you. Any LinkedIn recommendations from people at the director level or VP level, and those are always very powerful. And if you worked at a great, well-known brand, that always captures attention, right?
Mm.
If you worked at, Shopify, or some well-known company, Walmart, Shoppers Drug Mart, all these well-known brands, that always captures attention. Some people like to hide their companies, and maybe there's maybe you have some disclaimer issues there. But outside of that, you should definitely take advantage of whatever your experience you have that really captures the attention of the recruiter. But and again, have a well filled out thing, and then also, if you're able to post content that really shows that you're an expert in your space, that you are known in your industry. Like, for example, if I was recruiting for a BA and I happen to be looking for a BA in Calgary, I definitely be looking. I know the first person I'm thinking of. Like, I don't even have to say her name, right? Because she's credible. I know she's credible because she's always posting. she's visible, and if you don't know who I'm talking about Eno, right? She's posting. I can see she's an expert in her space. So that visibility and that credibility really helps as well. But if you can't do that, if you're too shy to do the videos and stuff like Eno does, although you should at some point, you definitely should at some point, then you need to have a well filled out profile that's as keyword rich as possible, and also make sure you mention your KPIs, metrics, actual results you achieved, because you don't want your profile to read like a job description, right? And same thing goes for your resume. Your resume should not read like a job description. A lot of people only mention tasks, responsibilities, and duties. And what you need to do is you need to connect those tasks, responsibilities, and duties with actual end results, ROI, time savings, cost savings, whatever, all that stuff, which shows, okay, wow, this person has worked at this company. These are the skill sets. This is the technologies they work with, but these are the results that they achieved. And hey, maybe they can potentially get these results from my client. So that would capture the attention of the recruiter.
I love it. I love it. So everything you've said right now, having a keyword optimized LinkedIn profile. When I see some profiles with the bare minimum, like you said, like you here, no profile picture. You just put, the name of the company and then the time period you're there. There's no information in regards to the projects you've worked on, no recommendations, nothing. The summary is so bare, right? Truly, why are you on LinkedIn? Because the keywords are definitely going to help you, because you never know what keywords are going to be used to search for you, right? So
exactly,
means of you have like all that real estate, like all that space to put in everything you've done. And something you really said is the ROI, the metrics, saved costs, increased revenue, improved the processes, all those things you did. Let's see the percentages. Let's see the figures, dollars and cents, basically. That would definitely capture, the attention of the recruiter. And then also the recommendations, I'd definitely love to see the recommendation from a manager, or supervisor or a peer, whatever it is. It just tends to show that credibility.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So, I'm a job seeker, and I don't want to. Some job seekers are also scared that they shouldn't be too visible on LinkedIn because they're scared their employers would think, oh, is this person trying to get another job or something? So, so how does one, a job seeker, right? I'm finally in a job, but I'm seeking another job, right? I want something better. How can I use LinkedIn to my advantage without seeming like I'm out there because I want something new? I want to change my job. How can I use LinkedIn to maybe I don't want to do videos. I don't want to be too out there. Like, how can I use LinkedIn to achieve this goal, basically?
Yeah, great question. And because this is a common, concern I hear from job seekers all the time is, I don't want my employer to find out that I might be looking. So yeah, right. I mean, it's a common thing, right? But well, here's the first thing, folks. Like, and a lot of you might be too concerned about this and giving it more attention than necessary. Chances are your manager probably has their own life, and they have their own concerns and their own things that I'm sure they don't constantly stay on LinkedIn seeing what everyone's doing, right? I mean, maybe there are some managers out there like that, I don't know. But this is what going back to what I said before about building out a career, right? So if you've really been nurturing your personal brand and looking at it from a career standpoint versus a job standpoint, you would already at this point, you'd be networking already. You'd be attending these events. You'd be visible in your industry, visible in your space, and because you're already doing that, you're already making yourself visible in ways that don't come across as you searching for a job, right? Attending these industry events. And also in regards to posting, I would say you can still post things without coming across as someone who's looking for work, right? I mean, I post all the time about recruitment and job search stuff and all of that, but I'm establishing myself as an expert in my space. It doesn't necessarily mean, or it doesn't come across as me looking for work. But that being said, I do receive a lot of incoming requests from other agencies and organizations saying, hey Dean, let's have a conversation, or hey would you be interested in new opportunities? Like, I get that all the time. So this is where it comes down to, look at it from your career. Like, that's what you need to do. If you're employed right now, if you're watching, you're employed, you need to make yourself visible. Participate in conversations. If you're a business analyst, for example, comment on Eno's stuff. Like, she posts a lot of stuff and topics about business analysis. And a lot of you don't take advantage of this. You're only saying, oh yeah, if I like her stuff, that only benefits Eno. But no, actually, no, it benefits you, because you get to then you put a comment, you share your thoughts, you engage with Eno, you start talking about business analysis, you talk about agile and all this stuff. And guess what? People looking at it, they see, wow, okay, so and so looks like a real expert, engaging in this conversation. So that's how you engage, and you really make yourself visible in your community, your online community, as an expert as well. But other than that, like I said before, be involved in your industry, attend industry events, and that's how you put yourself out there and really establish yourself and make yourself visible, right? Without coming across as someone who's actively looking.
Dan, what you shared right now is so valuable. It's so key. And when job seekers tell me, "Oh, I don't want to engage on LinkedIn. I don't know how to," what I feel like you're selling yourself short and you're self-sabotaging, because there's a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn. And just like you said, even when you're not seeking, people see you as an expert. You're knowledgeable in what you say you do. I'm a project manager, right? I'm a developer. I'm an accountant. Whatever you do, and you're sharing your knowledge and your thoughts. Now you don't have to do video. You could create posts, right? You could write articles and then share with people to engage. And then also engaging on people's posts is actually so powerful. Like leaving comments, because every other person sees your comments, and then there's a like as well. And I've gotten people connect with me and lots of opportunities on LinkedIn by just really showing up and engaging, right? So when people feel like, oh, I just like a post, that's it. You're doing yourself a disservice, because that was an opportunity for you to actually show yourself to thousands of people, right? Putting a comment on someone's profile, someone who has 10,000 followers already, 9,999 people are likely going to see your post, right? When I put a comment on someone's profile who has 50,000 followers, over 40,000 people are likely going to see my comments. And now that's increasing your visibility, increasing your reach, even if you do not create content, right? This is so there's a question here. Someone says, I'm a new immigrant with multi-sector experience. What's your advice for me with being able to position myself? I'm looking to transition into business analysis.
Okay, great question. And I
experience.
Sorry, say that again. The last part.
Multi-sector experience.
Multi-sector experience, right? Yeah. So great question. So to the person who asked this question, and one thing I always suggest is take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle, put business analysis on one side and your other experience on the other side, and list in all the similarities, like what's the transferable skill set, right? And because you want to focus on what you do have, don't focus on what you don't have. A lot of job seekers, they say, oh yeah, I'm from this sector, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. No, folks, stop it. Don't focus on what you don't have. Look for the transferable skill set. Focus on what you do have, because nobody can do anything with what you don't have, right? If I tell all of you right now I don't have a pen, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, so what?
Yeah.
I want to focus on. Yeah, I focus on what I do have, right? I have a piece of paper here. I have a keyboard. I have a computer. So you want to focus on what you do have, and that's what you want to focus on when you're pitching yourself for a position, and your other other experience. Use that as an asset, because and you might ask, how is that an asset? Well, it gives you a perspective that no one else who's competing for the same role will have. Exactly. Right. So you need to use that. It's all about perception, folks. It's very much sales, right? It's how you sell yourself, how you perceive it, and how you sell that to the other people. So focus on what you do have. If it comes across, oh yeah, Dean, your experiences in other sectors, I'd say, hey, Mr. Hiring Manager, you're absolutely right. I do have work in other industries, but that's exactly what makes me unique, because I bring a viewpoint or a perspective that none of your other candidates are going to have. Right.
Yeah. So awesome. Focus on what you have, guys. Don't focus on what you do not have. I do not have Python skills. I do not know how to use R. Well, focus on what you have, guys. The industry experience you have is so key. When people come to meet me and say, oh, I want to be a business analyst, but I don't know how to write code. I don't know SQL. I don't know Python. I don't know R. I'm like, well, not every business analyst knows all that. Focus on what you have. You've worked in banking. You've worked in government, you've worked in healthcare. Let's focus on that domain experience. Now, across board, like you said, what are some skills you had for all those experiences, and how can they relate to, say, business analysis or project management, and do that match, and then you definitely find something fantastic. That was great. And we're still coming to the question about selling yourself, because that's what a lot of people struggle with. Like, I don't sell anything better than myself, right? Because I can speak about myself. You know yourself best. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. So when it comes to the interview process, being able to sell yourself should be the easiest thing ever. And we're going to come to selling yourself, but I want to take this next question because it kind of relates to the question we just answered. So the person says, How do I make my resume and my LinkedIn profile representative of a BA when I didn't hold those titles in my previous experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it kind of connects with what I just mentioned, right? So focus. Firstly, you need to take a serious look to whoever asked the answer to the question. Write down. Okay, well, first of all, I'm assuming you've done your research on why you want to be a BA and what a BA does. I'm assuming you already have knowledge about that because that's a very important part. And then
Mm,
take note of what aspects of my previous experience relates to or can translate into something similar to what a BA does, and that's what you want to focus on your LinkedIn profile. You want to highlight those aspects. So if in your previous role maybe you were in customer service and you're aiming to get into a BA role, then you need to take a look at, okay, what skill sets do I have from customer service? What scenarios, what projects have I been involved with in customer service that is very much easily transferable to a BA role? And you want to focus on those aspects when you're describing the position. So
yeah,
if you were in customer service, you might not want to focus on how you handle cash because that might not be relevant to a BA. But you
yeah.
might want to focus on the customer interaction, problem solving, maybe the customer service process, all that stuff. So you need to focus on the right aspects and you need to highlight those aspects on your profile.
Awesome. So Din, as a recruiter and coming from, from that industry, would you consider someone who doesn't have, oh, business analyst? Would you consider someone who doesn't have that title but has the job description, basically the job duties and responsibilities and all that stuff? Would you consider that person?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and to give a very frank answer to everyone, so from a staffing agency perspective, you have to understand staffing agencies charge an additional fee on top of whatever your salary is to the organization, right? So usually when the organizations engage with the staffing agency, they're looking for someone who, as much as possible, matches everything to a T, right? Or even goes above and beyond the requirements. So for the most part, the expectation would be for me to find someone who has, business analysis. Again, this depends on what the requirements are, but I would say in the most cases, it would be difficult for me to present a candidate who does not have or does not meet most of the requirements and the kind of experience the client is looking for, because the client's attitude towards that is usually, hey, look, we're engaging in your services. We're hiring you for these for this position to find someone that's top, like meets every requirement as much as possible.
Yeah.
Now that being said, it is possible that depending on what the requirements are, if there is someone who has some great experience in some other areas, some other requirements for the role, it is possible, right? But it's all relative, really. I can't give you a straight answer on that. But I would say for the most part, just have to give you a realistic outlook. Staffing agencies, when they're engaged by organizations, the organization expects the staffing agency to find someone who meets everything, is like, pretty much meets almost everything, if not everything.
For sure, for sure. And that's why you want to make sure that you have all the relevant keywords on your resume
Yes, yes.
and your LinkedIn profile. And then you're also open with the recruiter as well and let them know, this is where I'm
Yeah,
at right now. And these are the kind of roles that would be best suited for me, right?
yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about something with regards to the conversations that job seekers have. And I feel like there's people who are able to have good resumes, able to even have a great LinkedIn profile. But when it comes to speaking about themselves, a lot of people struggle with speaking about themselves, right?
Mm.
So like one of the key questions is, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume or tell me about your career journey so far. A lot of people, surprisingly, cannot speak about themselves. They can't really, make that pitch, that 2-minute pitch about themselves. So when you ask that question, what are you really looking to hear? And what's the best, way to answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this comes down to, folks, and it depends on who you're speaking to. If you're speaking to a recruiter versus an actual hiring manager, if you're speaking directly to a hiring manager, what they're looking for is something that really shows them or captures their attention in terms of how you can potentially solve, or help them with whatever project they're working on. That's what's going to capture their attention, right? If it's for a recruiter, it might be something very similar, like something based on the requirements of their client or their organization that shows why you can potentially be someone who can help them out with whatever problem or issue they're facing. Now I think, in my opinion, the biggest challenge a lot of people face is primarily a psychological one, because a lot of us have been told not to speak about ourselves. From the time we're young, we're kids, right? What are we told? Don't brag. Don't talk about your accomplishments. Don't talk about your achievements. That's rude. It's going to make other people feel bad. there's a huge psychological thing to this, I believe, right? And this is just my personal opinion. I'm not talking about any
Agree with you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes down to that, and the other aspect is, on that initial phone call, before you even get to the interview stage, folks, you need to be asking some probing questions so that you understand what the core pain points are for the position and why they're looking to hire, so that way when you're at the interview and when someone asks you, so tell me about yourself, you know exactly what they want to hear, because they've already told you on the initial phone call, the phone screening, what they're looking for in an ideal candidate, right? So this is where that on the initial phone call, you need to do some probing. You need to find out, okay, what captured their attention about your resume that made them want to give you a phone call. Why is that? Why are you looking to hire at this time? Why is this project a priority for you at this time? These are questions all of you need to be asking on that initial phone call, so that when you're at the interview and the hiring manager asks you, so tell me about yourself, you can tell them exactly what they need to be hearing about your background and your accomplishments.
Exactly. Exactly. And I really agree with you with regards to the psychological part of things, because
Yeah,
a lot of us were told not to brag,
yeah,
and
yeah,
also a culture thing, I find.
exactly.
So like from Africa, Nigeria, where I come from, we're not taught to brag or to kind of outshine other people and speak towards our.
Yeah, yeah, same. Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of struggled with that early in my career as well. But I found that, when people are able to get past that fear of speaking about my accomplishments, saying what I'm good at, I'm able to sell myself and answer that question perfectly, because a lot of people feel, answering that question well, because they're not really saying the things that the recruiter or the hiring manager wants to hear at that point in time that relates to that role. Okay, so
Yeah.
another question is with regards to speaking about salary, right? So,
Mhm.
A lot of times the recruiter would say, what are you looking to, or what's your asking price, or what do you want for this role? And it's a struggle for a lot of people. Maybe as an immigrant, it's their first job, and they want to really get that job, and they don't also want to sound like they're overpricing themselves.
Mhm.
What's the best way to answer that money question, really?
Yeah, great question, Eno. So the first most important thing, folks, is you have to. There's no shortcut to this. You have to do your research. You have to conduct your research. You
Exactly.
have to be well informed about what your value is relative to your skill set and your experience. No one else can do this for you. This is where you have to do some legwork, and there are various resources online where you can do this. I know some agencies, they publish average salaries, and then you have other these institutions that provide those salaries, especially in your space. Check out, I know there's certain institutions for specific fields and industries that might provide this information as well. So do your research. That's how you're going to be able to figure out where you can position yourself based on your experience and your skill set. Now, in terms of the other part, I know you mentioned, which is very important. I know people, when they're new to the country, they think, oh yeah, I should position myself lower and this and that. But I want to caution everyone who's thinking that way. And I'm not saying be greedy or anything. The research part is important, because you can then ask for something very realistic, relevant to your skill set. But keep in mind, just the fact that you're new to the country does not mean you need to lower your salary expectations.
Mm,
If you're solving $1 million problem, it's still $1 million problem,
yes.
right? I mean, the fact that you're a newcomer does not reduce the problem to $500,000 problem.
Mm,
That's the only reason why you would ever lower your rate or your salary, is if the problem is smaller. It's to a lesser degree or something. But no, the problem remains the same. But they need your skill set to solve the problem. If you're applying for a role, you have the right experience. You've done your research. You're able to confidently show and explain why you're the right person for the role. There's no reason for you to lower your salary, as long as it's reasonable. It's based on market research. It makes sense. You're not asking for something ridiculous. There's no reason for you to reduce your salary just only because you're a newcomer. That doesn't make any sense.
right. Totally agree as well. Like I tell people, the first thing you do is research, research, research.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the pay rate for this role in my province, in my country, in this industry as well, because I find it also differs in industries. And then be open to asking this question. So if you're unclear, you can ask. So Dean, your client ABC Bank is looking for a BA. You reached out to me. Fantastic. So based on your experience with ABC Bank, what do they really pay BAs? With my years of experience, so I have 7 years of experience, and Dean will
Mhm.
tell you, at that point in time, because Dean is trying to also sell you to ABC and say, John is the best person for this role, he will tell you, well, from the last 2 to 3 BAs I placed in ABC Bank, they pay them $70 an hour. So based on years of experience, I'm thinking they'll pay you about 65 to 70. And then
Yeah.
you have that idea as well. So feel free to ask as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
doing your research as well, because it's one thing to have all that knowledge and experience. I mean, I see people who have 10 years and above of working experience, and then when they move here they feel like, oh, I need to start from an entry level role.
Yeah,
I've had
no.
people
Yeah.
say, I'm looking for an entry level BA job, and I look at their profile, I'm like, well, you have over 10 years of experience, why are you looking for an entry level role? Well, I heard that I don't have the Canadian experience, and when I don't, I have to start from entry level.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Canadian experience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This almighty Canadian experience, and having foreign experience and not being able to get into the perfect role. And a lot of people in the US as well that I work with also say they face those challenges with regards to having foreign work experience and then moving to North America and struggling. So let's talk about that work experience part. How do you handle that Canadian work experience struggle, especially with new immigrants to Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, very common struggle a lot of people face, right? So this goes back to what I said before, folks, focus on what you do have. The fact that you're new to Canada, you can't do anything about not having Canadian experience. You can't get a certification that says, yeah, Canadian experience. There's nothing like that, right? So again, there's no point. Yeah, I mean, that would be great, right? Like if there was something like that. It's like, yeah, I got the Canadian certification. So, but yes, folks, look, don't worry about things that you do not have. Same principle, exact same principle. So the Canadian work experience thing, if you don't have the Canadian work experience thing, hey, I mean, no use talking about that. You don't have that. So focus on what you do have. And look, I recruit in the IT space. I know you're pretty much in IT as well yourself. As a BA. I mean, IT is the same all over the world. It doesn't matter. Like that's what I don't get about this Canadian experience thing. A lot of some people say, because there's no such thing as Java, India version or Java Nigeria, right? Or Java Sri Lanka or Java China. Like it's all the same. Like no matter where you are in the world, right? So what all of you need to do is you need to focus on the actual technology, whatever technology or whatever the skill set is. You need to focus on that and what you do have. And other thing I want to mention is keep in mind at which point they mention this Canadian experience thing, because if they call you on the phone, they have a conversation with you, and then they say, oh, we need someone with Canadian experience. Guess what? They probably knew that before they made the phone call. So something about your profile caught their attention. Right. So you need to put their attention on what caught their attention about your profile and your resume.
Yeah.
So if someone says, hey, Dean, we're looking for someone with Canadian experience, sorry about that, but appreciate your time on the phone, I would say, hey, I totally get that, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter. And you're right. Absolutely. I don't have Canadian experience. But let me ask you this. What prompted you to give me a call? Like what caught your attention about my resume that prompted you to give me a phone call? Put the attention on that, folks. And then the recruiter is going to say, oh, well, Dean, we really like how you worked in, the retail industry. That caught my attention. And then that's where you need to probe. You need to probe and investigate, folks. Ask them why. Why is that retail experience important? Okay, great. Why else? What else caught your attention about my profile and my resume? What else? Why? Why is that important? Keep asking these questions. And then you ended off by saying, hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, I totally understand I don't have the Canadian experience, but it sounds like I do match most of the requirements for the role. So given that, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, allow me the opportunity to at least show you why I'm still a good candidate, a strong candidate, despite not having that one thing, the Canadian experience. Allow me the opportunity to show you why I'm still a good candidate.
Wow. That's really a great way to turn around that kind of situation, right? Because like you said, focus on what you have.
Yes.
This is so powerful. Focus on what you have, guys. Wherever you're listening to us from, I see a lot more people joined us. Thanks for joining us. Focus on what you have right now. So even where they say, oh, we're looking for someone with Canadian experience. Well, I do have the experience in retail as well. If you can give me the opportunity to tell you more about me and how much I can actually provide value to your organization, because I've done all this, and then you list all the accomplishments you've had so far, and then find a way to also communicate your value to that organization. So let's talk about the act of selling, right? Because we're all salespeople, right?
Yes.
And even in that interview, you're selling yourself. So what are some key tips you would give in regards to selling yourself, at an interview as a professional? How would you sell yourself, and so that you don't sell yourself short, but you sell yourself as, someone who knows? I think I'm a very confident interviewer. But it's
Yes.
just me, right? Because at some point in my life, I realized I'd been selling myself short for a long time, and then I was able to realize this is the value I offer. And like you said, I was solving $1 million problems,
Yeah.
right? But I never saw myself as part of something big. I always saw myself as just an employee, like someone who just works at this company. However, this is $1 million company, but I never saw my value that way. And once I was able to see my value, that I was working on $1 million projects. However, I was seeing myself as just Eno, right? But when I was,
Yeah.
it was like when the scale fell off my eyes, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a
Yeah.
$1 million BA,
Yeah. Exactly.
this kind of projects.
Yeah.
My confidence changed, my attitude towards, getting a job and getting an opportunity changed totally, right? Because
Absolutely.
I step into that room and I look you in the eye and I tell you everything I can do and have done, and my value is emanating all around me. Or like, wow, we need to have her here, right? We need to
Yeah.
have her on our team. That's really what a lot of people should do. So how do you sell yourself? What are some tips that you would give people on selling yourself and, wowing your interviewers to actually say, you know what, we want John on our team. Like, we can't let him go. If he steps out of this door, these other people are going to find him and grab him, right? His
Right.
value, and we want his value. So what are your tips for that?
Yeah, great, and I know I love how you said that. We're all salespeople, because we really are, and I'm going to start with what you said just now regarding the $1 million projects you've been a part of. A lot of job seekers actually do not, and it's kind of it saddens me, because I think a lot of job seekers don't actually see the kind of impact that they have in their previous projects, in their previous works. And unfortunately, a lot of IT professionals that I've spoken to, and I asked them, well, what was the value of that project, or what was the valuation of this accomplishment? And a lot of people don't know, because I don't know if they're not asking these things. So look, folks, if you're currently doing projects, always keep track of these numbers. What's the valuation of the project? What's the impact it's going to have on the organization?
Yeah.
This is what, just like how Eno's saying, this is what allowed her to see how she fits into the entire ROI of the project, right? That she
Yeah.
was involved in a $1 million project. And when that happens, that really increases your level of confidence, how you communicate, how you carry yourself, and how you really able to show your value as a person for the organization. So this is where you need to know your numbers. You need to know your numbers, folks. There's no shortcut around this. So whatever you have to do, go through the project charter, or you need to speak to some previous managers and get those figures. You need to find out what was the impact that I had on the project. You need to know that. And knowing that, and the second thing is, you need to be able to evaluate and find out. And this comes to how you sell yourself. In order to sell something, firstly, you need to understand the problem, because if you don't understand the problem, you might be selling something that doesn't appeal to anyone, right? That doesn't appeal to the hiring manager, whoever it is that you're in touch with. So you need to understand the problem. So this is where the probing and investigating comes into play. So at your interviews, on your phone calls, you need to be asking questions yourself to understand the problem. And a lot of job seekers, the mistake they do is they wait until the very end to ask their questions. And you know what? By the very end, it's too late, right?
Yes.
So throughout the conversation, just like how you see Eno and I speaking right now, your interviews should be like a conversation, just like this. She asked
Exactly.
me a question, I'd respond. Maybe I ask her a follow-up question. It has to be like a conversation. And that's how you understand the problem and the investigation, right? And going back to the analogy of the doctor and the patient. So you need to think of yourself as the doctor, and the hiring manager, the organization, is the patient. Now, when you and I go to a doctor, you don't sit down. The doctor doesn't say, "Hey, Dean, welcome, have a seat. Here's the prescription." Like that doesn't happen like that. Right. They sit you down. They say, "Okay, Dean, so what's been happening? What's been going on? Okay, what's the issue? Okay, you got a pain in your knee. Okay, great. How long has that been happening? What happened? Have you been exercising? Did you go jogging? Did you slip and fall or something? Okay." And then he takes that hammer thing, that little annoying hammer thing. He knocks my knee with that,
Yeah.
and then he evaluates, right? And then afterwards, that's after that, that's when he does the prescription thing, because he knows what's wrong, what I need help with. A lot of job seekers, they go in, they do their pitch, they start selling themselves and saying, "Yeah, I can do this, this, this," which is good. But without understanding the problem, you're not going to be selling the most relevant aspects of your background. So during the conversation, you need to be asking questions to evaluate what the problem is, what the pain points are. And then throughout the conversation, you can adjust your pitch, you make pivots where needed, you highlight the most relevant aspects of your background, and you show them how you can potentially help them solve, their problem, right? And one final thing I want to say about selling is, and I know selling can seem a little, again, intimidating. And again, I think this goes back to a psychological thing, like this deeply ingrained, like societal thing where we're taught, don't talk about yourself, don't talk about your achievements, blah, blah, blah. But keep in mind, folks, I would actually say that it is our natural state to sell. All of us, each and every one of us, it is our natural state to sell, to persuade, and to influence. Now,
Yeah.
I don't have any kids, but I've got nieces, little nephews, little cousins, and they are constantly selling. They're constantly selling. You tell me one kid you met that isn't trying to sell you, or trying to influence you, or try to get you to do something. Tell me one kid out there that you know that hasn't been socialized. When they're 2 3 years old, they're always trying to get something from you. They're always trying to persuade you to do this, do this. I want that. I want this. Can I do this? Can I do that? Right? And they're pushing through all of your objections. You say no, no, you can't do that, but they keep asking. They keep pushing.
Yeah.
So,
They ask why. Like kids are
oh
so
yeah, absolutely.
they ask, why can't I do it? Why can't I go
Exactly.
outside to play? Right?
Exactly. Right. And they're always trying, they're always trying to convince you of something. So
Yeah.
keep in mind that is all of us. All of us, that is our natural state. And it's your job at the interview to figure out what the problem is and then sell yourself. Again, going back to being a product and a solution, selling yourself as the solution.
Awesome. Sell yourself as a solution to the problems of the organization. Once you do your research appropriately, you should be able to sell yourself. And then, of course, measure, track, right? Know
Yes.
your numbers, understand the valuation of the project you've been involved in, and understand your impact, on that project. When people say, "Oh, I'm a project manager," I'm like, okay, this is going to be
Yeah.
interesting. Because when I ask you questions about your project, there are some basic things I would expect you to say as the
Yes.
project manager. I want to know about the budget, the scope of your project,
Exactly.
the size, right? What was the return on investment? Were you able to deliver the project on time? How long did it take you to deliver the project? All these kind of things I want to know. So are you tracking these things? You know your
Yeah.
numbers, basically, because that will help you to sell yourself and then be confident as well. Understand that you have the value, you are the solution to the problem, diagnose the problem. With regards to the interview, something you said that was so key was the conversation. A lot of people, they make the interview be a Q&A. Ask me a
Yeah.
question, I answer. Ask me a question, I answer. But you should be
Mhm.
asking questions between your interview. Get to know
Yes.
about the organization, because I find that it's during the interview I get to really know more about the organization, get to really know more about the culture than what's on their website, because sometimes it's different. And getting to know if I really want to work with that team, getting to understand the team dynamics, because I ask those questions during the interview, and then understanding the project in itself, what techniques they're using, what approaches they're using, the complexity of the project, the size of the project team. I'm asking all those questions, and it really shows I genuinely care about what they do at that organization.
Exactly.
It shows
Exactly.
that I am concerned. It shows that I'm interested in what they're doing. And based on my questions, it's easy for the hiring manager to say, wow, she really knows what she's talking about, because you wouldn't let them tell you something and you don't have a counter, solution to the problems. Because if you ask about complexity, you're ready to answer any question that may come up with regards to complexity. So let's take some
Exactly.
questions that we asked, as we were talking. Someone said something. So Jerry said there are a couple of opportunities that require some form of security clearance. This limits the chances for new immigrants. Are there any clear innovations around this?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jerry. I do know that some roles require certain levels of government clearance. I don't think there's real. I mean, it depends on how the degree to which those are required. I don't think there's any way to really sidestep those.
Yeah.
Right, especially if it's really required for the role. And the reason why those security clearances are required is, usually it's because the project is something to do with some level of government, whereby you need to have be in Canada, I believe, for a certain number of years to be eligible for whatever security clearance. So I as far as I know, there's no way to really sidestep those, and I don't want to recommend any illegal means of doing that. But unfortunately, there might not be a way to do that. But what I would suggest is, don't just focus on a handful of opportunities, folks. Always keep your pipeline full and
Exactly.
abundant with other opportunities, right? Like, don't depend on just a handful. You definitely want to make sure they're relevant, but keep looking for more opportunities. If you're coming across those, you might not be eligible for.
Exactly. I totally agree, Jerry. I mean, for a government role, there's reasons why security clearance is needed for that kind of role, probably very sensitive. So you want to
Yeah,
make sure that you keep your options open. I find with a lot of people, especially new immigrants, they're very hung up on the big organizations. And I used to be that way as well.
yeah,
Earlier in my career, like if it wasn't like getting out of school, I wanted to work for either of the big fours, right? I wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
one of the big fours, and then when people move to Canada, like I'm going to go to Toronto because I want to work for the top 5 banks.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
fantastic. I mean, if you get that opportunity straight off the bat, that's awesome. However, there's a lot of organizations that, they're not big, they're, medium to small scale, but
yes,
they have a great culture and they probably even pay better. So you don't have to be so stuck up on, the big organizations or government organizations. I mean, if you get those opportunities, that's fine. So
yeah,
like this, keep your pipeline open, apply to, large, medium, small, wherever it is that that you can actually provide value and you can actually solve their problems. Remember, you're the solution, right? So Jerry
yeah.
also had a counter question. So he said, I tend to agree with you on Canadian experience. However, it appears that a much touted experience is more of interpersonal and Canadian organizational work culture, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess what Jerry's saying is that it comes down to maybe social and cultural stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I totally get that, Jerry. But at the same time, keep in mind, if they gave you a call, they probably knew you were new to the country, so something caught their attention about your resume.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't address it when you were on the phone call with them or at the interview. So you need to kind of probe, investigate, and find out what initially caught their attention and focus on that. Because again, I mean, the cultural stuff, there's nothing you can do about it. If you're new to the country, I mean, you don't have the Canadian experience. Maybe you haven't gone to the hockey games. You don't like maple syrup. You can't do anything about that stuff, right? You can't do anything about that stuff, right? So you got to focus on what you can do, what you can address, what you can focus on. So my advice, Jerry, again, like I said before, focus on what you do have, focus on what did capture their attention, and focus on that.
If you haven't been to a hockey game, does that make you less Canadian?
Well, you know what? I came here when I was 10. I've still never been to a hockey game.
I haven't been to a hockey game, but I can talk hockey, right? So
Okay.
they always tease me, right? So with the Jets and then of course the Calgary Flames, they always tease me
Yeah,
whenever we have, a game and they're always like, Anna, we're gonna whoop you up tonight. I'm like, okay. And I can talk hockey, right? But I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to go to a hockey game. So all these things are things you can also learn, just be able to have those small talk and those conversations.
yeah,
So I tell people with regards to the Canadian experience, it's really easy for a hiring manager to even overlook this experience thing if they see you as a good culture fit. And culture fit varies from organization to organization, right? So I tell people my first interview here, in Canada was horrible. And that's
mm,
because interviews are done differently back home. You need to be very technical. You
mm,
like a math test and all that stuff to do for, a basic role. And I was expecting all that kind of technical stuff, but this was a lot more conversational, behavioral questions, and really getting to know more about my competencies with regards to my people skills was what they were really concerned about. So I'm like, that was a huge learning curve for me. And I find with a lot of newcomers, they're not used to this interview style. So
yeah,
I'll, practice interview with people who have been here already, find someone you can do a quick run with and really
yes,
understand how interviews are done here. And then be open to also sharing, right? So when you're talking about your experience, be open to sharing, the lessons you learned on that, by that experience. And also find a way to bond with your interviewer, I find is very key, which is something I think is one of my strengths. And that's just because I have really great communication skills. I know how to kind of hook people in. So
yeah,
find a way to kind of bond and connect with your interviewer. If you know the people you're going to be speaking with, do some research on them, find out the things
yeah,
that you like, find that common ground, and that person will see you as a culture fit. And then do your research about the organization too. Some organizations, like you said, hockey, maybe they support some hockey teams, or maybe they do some CSR. You could use that as well as common ground to kind of show that you're a good culture fit for the organization. So I hope that helps you, Jerry. So we have a question here. Kemi says, some people say the best time to contact the recruiter and get their attention is from noon on Monday to noon Friday. Is this true? Or can we contact them anytime? I never heard this before.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kemi, hopefully I pronounced her name correctly. Is it
Yeah.
Kemi?
Yeah.
Kemi. So, yeah, great question, Kemi. So, I mean, the best time to contact a recruiter is right away. That's always the best time, right? And especially if it's if it's a staffing agency recruiter. Remember, staffing agency recruiters are commission driven. So chances are, even if you contact them after hours, they might still respond.
Oh yeah.
Unless
talk to me at night.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, if it's a corporate recruiter or HR recruiter, no, they're pretty much 9 to 5. So they might not, but you never know. If it's a smaller firm, they might be very proactive and they might get back to you. But the best time, Kemi, is when you see an opportunity, take time out of the equation, contact them right away. If they don't respond, follow up. You got to follow up. So don't depend on just one contact. And I think that's the underlying issue is people are concerned about is they send one message or one phone call, they don't get a response, they give up, they move on. No, don't give up, folks. Send one message. If you don't get a response, follow up with them, but keep looking for other opportunities, but keep following up with them.
Awesome. So keep following up. And Kemi, the best time is now. For a lot of roles, the roles are time bound, really. And the truth is, once that recruiter can get, 3 to 4 profiles, to send over to the clients, I mean, he's good at that point. Yeah. So you want to make sure immediately you see a role, quickly apply, quickly reach out to that recruiter. If it's on LinkedIn, wherever it is, act fast, basically, because you never know, how time sensitive that role is. Okay. So Olu says, I have accounting and retail banking experience in the UK. I'm looking to move to Canada and start a BA career. What are the steps that I should take to prepare me for my move? So you're moving to Canada, start a BA career. What will be your advice to Olu Dean? What should he start doing? What steps should he take?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing, Olu, is looks like you're in from LinkedIn. Maybe put your face on your LinkedIn profile. Because right now I think you have put a picture there with credit, which I do get. It's pretty creative, right? Because you're in accounting, I guess, and retail banking. Yeah. But see if you can put a nice professional picture there so that it makes it personable and we can see who Olu is.
Exactly.
And again, going back to what I said before, focus on the transferable skill set on your profile and your background. Now the specific BA advice, the expert is right there. You wanna ask her about that probably, but other than that, and do some research on the local Canadian culture and stuff like that. Just like Eno said, see if you can start building your network before you move here. So just like you're already connected with Eno, obviously. So obviously we will be connecting soon, I guess, on LinkedIn maybe. So start building out your network and connecting with people, so that by the time you move here, you already have a strong community and a strong network that you can appeal to.
Yeah, and Olu, another advice I have for you is, as you're building your network and connections, and preparing yourself, knowing the transferable skills that you have, look out for, BA roles here. You can go to Indeed.ca or look at LinkedIn Jobs and look at roles in Canada, or if you have a province in mind, in Toronto, in Calgary, in Vancouver, and look at the kind of roles that that are being put up. Look at the kind of roles that would be a good fit for you, and then look at what the requirements are. So, look, in Canada, we have the CBAP, the CCB or the CBAP is what is being required for a lot of BA roles. So how can I get the CBAP certification if I don't have it? What are the things that I have right now I can focus on? And then if there are things that are easy for me, that low-hanging fruit, basically, that I can get, then you'd definitely want to have that. Now, I also see you have your ACCA. You can look to converting that to the CPA as well, because as a business analyst with the CPA, you can definitely fit into the finance business analysis space. All right. Okay, so we have another question. This person didn't sign into StreamYard from Facebook, so we can't see his or her name. But the person says, do I need a tech degree to get a role as a project manager in the IT sector?
So great question, Facebook user. Yeah, because I can't see the name, but yeah. So I mean, this depends on the requirements for the role, right? Like now I'm just thinking, if this was a senior IT project manager role, and you already have experience in IT project management, it's not going to matter that you don't have a tech degree. Now, if your situation is I don't know, maybe you're entry level or junior, you're looking to make a play into project management, you don't have a tech degree, I mean, if it's a junior entry level role, again, it depends on the requirements because it's hard to say. It depends on the requirements. For the
Yeah.
most part, if you have the PM experience, it shouldn't matter because project management principles are the same, regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't matter. And even if it does matter, you can always highlight the fact that you've done previous project management. But I'm rambling now at this point. But if it's a senior role, and you have that ITPM experience, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know your name, but if you already have PM experience, I don't think the tech degree matters because, so if for that PM role, they're asking for someone who has the CAPM or the PMP, that means they use the PMI standards basically. So if you already have the PM experience, you have the knowledge with regards to how projects work, I think you should, take that shot and, don't self-sabotage, let them say, oh, okay, we wanted someone who had a computer science degree. That's why we didn't hire you. And then but it's just as many shots as you don't take, you don't really get, right? So take that shot. So Kemi says, after applying to jobs on LinkedIn, is it advisable to contact the job poster with a cover letter explaining why you're a good fit, or is that being pushy?
Yeah, so great question, Kemi. So I would say no. I mean, it's not pushy. Now, whether you send a cover letter, I'm not. I would say that you probably should send the cover letter in your first message, or in your first submission or whatnot. But following up afterwards, no, it's not pushy. It's actually going to set you apart from most applicants because most applicants, they're going to apply and they're going to move on to the next application and just keep going. So if you really want to stand out and separate yourself, Kemi, it's a good way to do that is direct messaging the poster and introducing yourself, mentioning something that captures their attention that would really appeal to them, and then following up from that point onwards. Now, maybe attaching a cover letter, like you can definitely do that. I would prefer that you do a personalized message because that makes it more personal versus a cover letter, which is more, general kind of. But if you can customize it as much as possible, of course, that would be best. But no, I don't. It doesn't come across as pushy at all. No.
Yeah. Dean, do you have any tips for salary negotiation? Do you have any tips with regards to salary negotiation? So say, the candidate receives an offer and it's for 60K, and the candidate believes that, she should earn higher than 60K annually. Right? What would be your advice for that situation?
Yeah. So this kind of cycling back from there. Keep
Mm.
in mind that one of the risks in providing a range, like let's say this candidate gave the range of I'm looking for 60 to 65. If you're giving a range, folks, make sure you're happy with the lower end of the range because both parties see two different things. When you say a range, like I'm looking for 60 to 65, the organization might be thinking of 60K and you're thinking of 65, right? So there's differing perspectives there. So
Yeah.
make sure that I usually advise candidates, and when I'm representing a candidate, I always provide a specific number that they're extremely happy with.
Yeah.
I ask them what their higher number is. I try and present them at the highest number possible that makes sense, and I present them at a specific figure. And if it comes down to negotiations, also that's a different thing. But my point is, make sure if you're providing a range, you're happy with the range. Now, going back to let's say you provided a specific range and they come back with something lower. Keep in mind that the issue is not like let's say you wanted 65, they came back with 60K, like Eno said. The problem is not the 65K. What you actually need to convince them of now is not 65K. You got to convince them of 5K. You need to focus on the difference. So you need to kind of do some probing, investigating, figure out what they like about you, why they want to put an offer on the table in the first place, and then you need to sell them on and justify that additional 5K. Because 60K is accounted for. You got the 60K. It's just that additional 5K that you need to work on now.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely being able to justify why you deserve that. And that's where the other requirements for the role come in. So say, you have all the certifications they ask for, like you have everything. You have more than years of experience they ask for. And then you could leverage that to say, hey guys, you asked for 7 years, I have 10 years of experience. I've worked on similar projects, like this one I'm coming to work on here. So I don't exactly need so much training because I already have that knowledge. And then I'm already certified as blah, blah, blah. So you're not even going to pay for my certifications or anything. I'm coming in as, this experienced person. And that kind of gives you leverage to ask for more.
One more thing, if I could add, I know, and yeah, that's a great point. Now another thing that that I have used in negotiations on behalf of candidates is put the organization's focus on the size of their problem,
Yeah.
right? Because that makes you want them think if they're going to complain about numbers, let them complain about a big number, right?
Mhm.
So and what I mean by that is, look, you need to ask your point of contact. Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager. I understand you want to negotiate on the salary. You came back with 60K. But let me ask you this: how much has it been costing you not having the right person in this seat to deal with this project? What has been costing the project, the team, the department, the company? Right?
Yeah.
And what is the size of this problem? You need to have them put an actual dollar figure on it. If it's $1 million problem, guess what? You asking for an additional 5K is like nothing, and they're gonna be like, yeah, you know what? It's just
50K.
5K. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You could ask for 50K. But hopefully all of you understand what I'm saying. Like, put the focus on the real problem, because
Yeah.
the reason why they're hiring you is because they have a problem big enough that they can justify setting aside whatever budget to bring someone on to help solve the problem.
Yeah. All right. Wow. It's been awesome. It's been amazing. Thank you for everyone who joined.
Yeah,
Your
thanks.
questions. You guys have asked, really great questions. So all I say is visibility by establishing myself as an expert. Thank you, Dean. That's
Yes.
all that from Grenada. Kemi says focus on what you have. Thank you for this, Dean. I
All
think
right, Kemi.
that's like the headline for
I think
today.
that was the main thing. Yeah, yeah.
Focus on what I
Focus on what
have.
you have.
I
Yeah.
am enough. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Ola. You are. And someone says, well, research is the part I love the most. Definitely do your research on the company. Abiodun says pay scale is a very good tool for researching salary expectation. Your pay scale is good.
Hey,
You know,
shout out to Abiyadun. I know Abiyadun on LinkedIn. Shout out.
Anthony says, know your value. Once you're able to know your value, guys, once you know your value, you can definitely leverage that, as a job
Yeah.
seeker. Know your value. So key. Larry says, I love that part. My major takeaway, focus on what you have. Focus on what you have. Igechi says, focus on what you have.
All right, that was the big one. That was the big
All
one.
right, that's really, really big one. Really, really, really big one. Biodun says, identifying the problem to be solved is key to your selling point. That's your value proposition. Spot on. That's your value
Yeah.
proposition. You identify the problem, to be solved. That's your value proposition. Analyze the job description with your SWOT. The problem to be solved will be revealed. Awesome. 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 Joy says, nice one, Eno. You're really doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lara says, thanks for another great session, Eno and Dean. You're very, very welcome. So,
My
guys,
pleasure.
Okoyemi says this is an eye opener. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really happy that a lot of you have, taken some things away. I'm really understanding that it's really all about your value. Like I said yesterday, keep things simple. Focus on what you have, these transferable skills that you have. Focus on what you have and how you can actually use that to solve problems. When you focus on the problem of the organization, then you realize that you're the solution. And
Yeah.
before you go in for that interview, list out all the ways you can solve the problem. Why I am the perfect candidate to solve that problem, because that's what you're going to be doing in the interview. You're basically going to be selling yourself, selling your brand, yourself as the product, to that organization. So guys, please send your thanks to Dean. Thank you so much, Dean, for
Thanks
being
for
here
having
with
me.
us. Erica says thank you. She's watching from YouTube. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Erica, for joining us. Thank you so much, Dean, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience with us, for answering our questions and, helping us to understand that we need to focus on what you have. Focus on what you have. Thank you so much, Dean. And everyone who joined in, have a wonderful weekend. You can find Dean on LinkedIn. He does live sessions where he brings on experts as well. He has his tech talks on Tuesdays. He has his tips on Thursdays,
Wednesdays. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
live sessions on Thursdays. So there's
Yeah.
always so much value. There's almost always so much value, from Dean's live sessions. Even when I miss them, I go back to rewatch them. Larry says, no one should be able to reject you based on no Canadian experience after listening to this session. Yes.
All right. That's right. Yeah.
Tag people and share it, because people need to, listen to the session. This session was very enlightening. I'm so glad that, you all got. Thank you so much, Christian, Jennifer. Thank you so, so much. On that note, we'll say bye, guys, and feel free to catch up with us on LinkedIn as well, and then go back to what the replay again if you didn't join us in good time. Bye.
Thanks
Bye,
so much. I
guys.
know. Bye, everyone. Thank you.